This week we decided we were going to watch 2 movies that we don't like. Or movies.
Bad movies?
Yeah, they're bad. Well, not in every aspect, but... Let's talk about AVP Rec first.
I agree.
Which is also known as Alien vs. Predator Requiem. I watched the first Alien vs. Predator just about a month ago or so.
Yeah.
And not very good. So I was like...
It's still like it's a watchable movie, at least.
Yeah, I guess. A lot of the action is pretty dumb. They treat the xenomorphs just like dumb. They're not scary, right?
Yeah.
At all.
So when the first one came out, people were really mad because it was PG-13. And it was like, well, I think probably the first Alien or Predator movie to be PG-13.
Yes.
So people really choked about that, and it didn't turn out to be the greatest movie ever made. So when they announced AVP Requiem was coming out, and that was going to be R-rated, I remember people were really excited again. They're like, oh, finally, the Alien versus Predator we deserve.
It's punishment.
And it was terrible. And another like kind of backstory, like I think it was the debut film of these 2 brothers who had been doing special effects for a while. I think they did special effects in like Titanic and stuff.
Okay.
And they were very well respected, and they refer to themselves as the brothers Strauss instead of the Strauss brothers.
It's genius.
It's so bad.
Here, I took notes on Alien vs. Predator Requiem.
Really?
And I'm going to use those notes to guide myself through this masterpiece of cinema.
Nice. Doesn't it kind of start off where the first Alien vs. Predator left?
Yeah, they do the recap of like the last 30 seconds of the first AVP movie.
Where a chest burster erupts from a predator, right?
Yeah, and it's the mixture of like a xenomorph mouth and a predator mouth. So basically anything that happened in the first AVP has no consequence whatsoever, because this is a totally unrelated story other than the xenomorph predator cross.
Yeah.
So that's all they recapped in that opening scene. The xenomorph predator cross crashes it kills people, kills predators on a ship, and then it crashes. And the hunter and his son find it, and that's when facehuggers get out, as well as the predator xenomorph cross.
And it's kind of when the movie establishes itself as being R-rated too. It's like, look how dark we are, father and son both getting face hugged. Because it's a little kid, and you're expecting, like, most movies, like, a little kid would, like, get away and run to the police, be like, something happened in the woods to my father. But instead,
and it's like the worst chest burster effect
it really probably is.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
It was quite obviously CGI, and I remember how really cool the chest burster scene is in Alien, and even in Aliens.
Yeah, man. All of them.
But these ones were like laughably bad. And then like I'm about like half an hour into the movie, and they've introduced who I guess is the main character, Dallas.
Like the teenage kid?
Well, Dallas is the older brother of that kid, right? And the sheriff at the same time. And then they introduced the teenage brother of Dallas, who is a pizza delivery boy.
Is he the main character? He probably has more screen time than the older brother. He's in the older brother's in the beginning, and I swear I forgot he was in it until the very ending.
See, here's the problem with the movie. Who's the protagonist? It's either Dallas or the teenage brother, but we don't know.
None of them have anything to like go with.
No.
I would say probably more the teenage guy there.
Okay.
Because he's the one who, like, spoilers, like, loses his girlfriend and has to, like, kind of change the most. And
but he doesn't.
No, nothing happens.
And he doesn't do anything in the climax of the movie other than sit in the helicopter going, no, we have to wait for my brother, who is the one fighting, like, the xenomorph, right?
Yeah.
We also meet the Predator, who picked up a signal from
Yeah.
From the Predator who crashed and did the self-destruct thing. So why the movie wasn't just about that Predator who could have survived the crash and like obviously they get this xenomorph Predator across.
Yeah.
Instead, he sends a signal to his buddy Predator back on Predator
He
World,
comes.
and he comes and decides he's going to track down the xenomorphs and this Predator xenomorph cross to kill. And he's using a blue liquid for whatever reason. I don't know what. He doesn't even talk, so we don't even know what. He's there to kill the xenomorphs.
Is that the same blue liquid as in Prometheus? Even
It
though I
could
don't
be.
think Prometheus had blue liquid, but
Wayland Yutani was like, whatever this is, put it in the archive.
yeah. And these movies make no sense in like the timeline of Alien or
Not at
Predator,
all.
but you can't even consider that.
Not
but,
at all. And then we meet the like mother Marine. I'm not sure if she's Marine or just army military woman,
the
right?
most useless character in the whole movie, probably.
And her husband and her daughter, and I'm just like, holy. And we also meet like the mother. So the mother/wife of the hunter and child that got killed by the facehuggers in the woods. I was like, okay, so they're setting this up to be like an ensemble piece, but I don't know any of their names. I don't know any of their backstory. They're all flat characters that don't act like human beings. It kind of reminded me of Tremors. Have you seen Tremors?
Yeah, I have Kevin Bacon, yeah, definitely.
How it's like, small community, everybody knows each other, ensemble piece where monsters come to town, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
But that one it works because they actually did a good job of characterizing the characters.
This movie is actually like laughably bad.
Yes.
Like the characters, like the whole teenage bullies, like what? He goes and delivers pizza, and they like kind of bully him a little bit, make fun of him, and he gives it back. And talks to the girlfriend, gets a nice tip, and then goes outside. And they're just like waiting for him. They're like, "Hey, bitch!" And they just like crack him.
Find him in 30 minutes or less, asshole.
To make you hate a character, they just turn into like the most violent, aggressive high school jock ever. Right?
Yeah.
They can't think of a more subtle way. They took the easy route, right? And there's witnesses. Like she sees it and the friend sees it. I was tempted to be like, why not just? I guess he was trying not to be a coward, but I was like, why not just call the cops?
I know.
And be like, 3 guys jumped me at this address and threw my keys down the sewer, and I
While
want to press
working.
charges.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm a pizza guy I was delivering and got jumped, and they threw my keys down the sewer. It really sucks.
I guess he wants to take the more noble way, which is to go home and get a bat.
Yeah.
Right? That's what he was doing there,
Yeah.
right? He wanted to get a bat to go beat the shit out of them. So I was like, okay, I guess this is setting up an arc for Ricky.
The
That's his
pizza
name.
guy?
The pizza
Yeah.
guy, Ricky. And he's probably going to have like a showdown, or he's going to like outsmart the bully or save his life.
But no.
No, the bully
Nothing
gets killed
happens.
by a xenomorph,
Yeah.
like by chance practically. I was like, no poetic justice whatsoever. Yeah, like an hour into the movie, I'm like, there's no fucking story. The only story is that the Predator is trying to track down the xenomorph and the xenomorph Predator cross.
Yeah, the
Xenomorphs.
hybrid or whatever.
Yeah, the
it is.
hybrid.
Yeah.
That's the only plot. The other one is like stay alive and escape the city before they call in the army, basically. They call in the army, and the army's being torn
I know
apart.
what
So
you
they're
mean.
gonna bomb the city, right? But there's like the story is like
Paper.
like that thin.
Oh man.
It
There
was
is no story in this movie.
and it just kept introducing more and more characters, and no sequence would last for more than 3 minutes, and then it would go to another subplot. I thought that the Predator trying to track down the hybrid was more interesting than anything that the other characters had to offer.
Yeah. And it's called Alien versus Predator.
Yeah.
It's not called Ricky versus the Bullies. You know? Like, come on. I don't know. That just.
Or they should find a clever way to wrap, like, to intertwine Ricky versus the Bullies with Alien versus Predator.
Yeah, make it like somehow represent the Predator and Alien
Yes.
fight in some way. Or
But they didn't even bother to do that.
this was by far the darkest movie. You couldn't even see what was going on in any of the action. It was so dark.
I won't lie, I didn't pay to see this movie. I torrented it. And the first torrent I downloaded, it was, like you said, so dark. I thought it was like a really shitty torrent. So I was like, well, I'll try another one. Nope.
No,
Crushed blacks. You can barely tell what's happening in some of the action shots.
but it was so fucking underwhelming.
Yeah, it
There was no creativity to it whatsoever.
No. The creature effects I thought looked okay.
They were okay, but it
Um,
was so dark you couldn't really tell.
It's like maybe they didn't look good, and they
Yeah.
were like, let's make it dark so they can't tell,
Yeah,
right?
I did respect it for. I think it went with the more old school method of like practical effects and putting people in suits for the most part than CGI.
Yeah.
Even like some of the aliens I noticed, I'm like, oh, I think that's a suit.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. The hybrid was definitely a suit. But like the big showdown between the Predator and the hybrid, you could tell it was two guys in big costumes just clunking around, and
Yeah.
they did look kind of awkward
It
in
did
some
look
shots.
awkward.
So that's where practical effects and costumes can sometimes fail. There were so many moments where I was just like, that doesn't make any sense. Like when there's the cop that keeps searching in the woods after they've given up searching,
yeah.
and he's this one guy who's really determined, and he's going to go look for
The noble one.
the noble one,
Yeah.
right? Who we don't even meet, right? We just see him in one scene, and he sneaks up on a predator who's dissolving the bodies for some reason
Yeah.
that we don't know. But he's dissolving the bodies, and
Cover it up.
the cop sneaks up on him, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, predators are supposed to be like the most formidable hunters in the
And just
the
some
galaxy.
random dude sneaks up on the predator.
accidentally sneaks up on them.
Yeah.
The whole
I
point of
thought
the
the exact same thing.
The whole
actually.
point of the first Predator movie was that it's hard to track these.
It's like an
things.
alien ninja, basically.
Yeah.
And it's true, with crazy technology.
Whoops.
What powers the Predator's technology? I just kind of thought that. Do they ever run out of batteries?
Can't believe I'm letting you do this. This plan is stupid. Let's just leave town now.
Because we're not going to make it out of town without weapons, dickhead.
Aliens were in this movie. Like,
Dozens, because this new hybrid, for whatever reason, is able to face hug
yeah.
and throat fuck eggs
true.
into
Oh,
women.
yeah, that one scene, and then they turn, or the chest burster.
Yeah, but there would be like multiple chest bursters per host,
Yeah.
which is in total contradiction to like the hive, parasitic hive society that James Cameron wrote for Aliens.
Yeah.
Because facehuggers do the impregnating, not the xenomorphs. It's kind of dumb.
Yeah, it isn't. And what makes it so that this hybrid predator, what makes the predator's DNA mixed with the alien DNA that's like, oh, well, this enhances the alien somehow.
Not leaving without it.
We have to go.
You'll make it.
I just realized you don't even see the predator at the climax of the movie kill the hybrid.
No.
They both get killed in the nuclear explosion at the same time. So is the movie supposed to end like it's a draw?
Kinda. It's kind of like all these Versus movies, because they don't want to, like...
Offend half the people.
And they don't want to make one of their franchises seem weaker than the other. You know, like, it almost, like, represents, like, if Freddy had beaten Jason in, like, Freddy vs. Jason, or Alien vs. Predator, if Predator had won, it almost makes the aliens look like pussies, or, like, Jason Voorhees look like a bitch. And then, I don't know, it's, like, almost, like, subconsciously in people's mind, it's like, I'm not gonna go see a Jason movie, he's such a pussy. You know what I mean? I don't know, there's something about it, I think. So it's just like even, and like you said, all the hardcore fans, you don't want to be like, oh my god, the aliens didn't win, they're so much better, they're like the ultimate species. Like, oh my god.
I just like to imagine some super nerd just like crying in the theater.
Yeah. When the Predator win, the Predator has better technology, would have won.
The world isn't ready for this technology.
But this isn't for our world, is it, Miss Yutani?
So next up is Robot versus the Aztec Mummy.
How far can the human mind penetrate the mysteries of the great beyond? Who knows? This picture is based upon an extraordinary experiment carried out by Doctors Hughes and Tooney of the University of Los Angeles.
So first time I saw Robot versus the Aztec Mummy was a couple of years ago. I was just me and a couple of friends were hanging out, flipping through the channels, and they were like, "What's this?" And they put it on just as it started, and we were just like, "This is bad. This is laughably bad, right?" It's a movie that was made by, I think, a Mexican production company and was picked up by an American distributor. And they redubbed over the Spanish actors with English voice actors.
Who'd complain at having the opportunity of visiting with such a beautiful young lady as your wife, Flora?
Flatterer.
Thank God it's only an hour and like 5 minutes long, because it feels like 3 hours.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
It's painful.
It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
It was.
Um,
But I didn't hate it.
you do get to make fun of it as you're watching
yeah,
it,
and
right?
there's something so just inherently bad about it that it's like good. Almost good.
It's
And like the big concept of this movie, I guess when you explain is about this. What is the main guy? Like what is he? What's
he's a
his career?
psychologist or a psychiatrist / scientist.
Okay, so he's telling a story to his friends / colleagues. I
Yes.
don't even know. And so like I would say, what 3/4 of the movie is him telling a story?
My friends, be patient and allow me to tell you a story. Although you already know part of the history, there are some things that you ignore. I think the best thing to do is to begin at the beginning. You both recall, do you not, that occasion years ago?
Doesn't that just kill all tension and stuff?
Yeah.
You know the guy survives. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't seem too heated about what had happened. He's
Yeah.
telling the story pretty casually.
Yeah.
When we held a convention on psychiatry in this city, I attended and gave a talk on the results of my studies related to the regression of a patient to a past life through the use of hypnosis.
He hypnotizes his wife, and through the hypnosis, he's able to bring back her memories of a past life, where she was an Aztec princess or something like that.
Yeah.
And her loving prince and her were cursed and killed or something like that, and he became the mummy. His research was considered false by his peers, including Dr. Kropp, who becomes the criminal mastermind later.
A couple of weeks later, we discovered that Dr. Krupp, a man who had suddenly become a dangerous criminal in the underworld, had been there spying during my experiment. The experiment had been a complete success, but since we realized that no one would believe us unless we could come up with absolute proof, we decided to search for the breastplate and the bracelet.
And then they go to like the ruins, the Aztec ruins, and they're all just kind of walking through there, and they're all taking like little slow baby steps because it's clearly just a set that's like probably like 30 feet wide.
Yeah.
And if they walk too fast, they're gonna hit the end too quick. And then they find the breastplate and I think the bracelet.
Left, I'll be able to demonstrate this to my colleagues and prove my theory.
It's simply amazing.
And they don't take the bracelet. Is that right? Do they take it? I can't, because they end up going back to that Aztec ruin like 3 times.
Without the bracelet, it was simply impossible to decipher the code. So I decided to go back for it, in spite of the Aztec curse that surrounded it.
And that's when you hear
The Aztec warrior had come back to life to retrieve the objects that had been left in his care for eternity.
they're like, quick, shine the lights in its face. And they shine the lights in its face.
It looked like, okay, I'm just a retarded, mummified Leatherface. This movie was the opposite of energy.
It's dark matter.
It really
just
was.
kills everything
it was
touches.
so slow, and like there were so few there seemed to be so few cuts. It was just like people walking, and then someone just talking about nothing.
And then the mummy decides he's going to go get the guy's wife because that's his past lover in a past life.
Yeah.
And how the husband doesn't notice that his wife was picked up by a mummy in his house and carried out. I don't know. They don't even bother to show that. They just like cut to her in the ruins, like laying down on the...
Well, this was after the mummy threw the guy into the pit, right?
No, was it?
I don't know. I just watched it like 2 hours ago.
Then it's hard to remember like which
Because they just keep going back to like the same place.
yeah, obviously because they only had a handful of sets to work with.
And then the mummy goes.
At one point they destroy the temple. Someone has a grenade, the old professor.
Mhm.
He has a grenade and he's instead of like dropping the grenade and running away, he decides he's going to stand there holding the grenade so he can kill the mummy and collapse the temple.
Yeah, of course. That's the thing to do.
The mummy can't move more than like half a mile an hour, so I think
Why don't they just like casually walk away from the mummy?
So the mummy doesn't have a home anymore because his tomb was ruined. So where do they find him? In just a tomb in a regular cemetery. He's just taking a nap. That's where he lives now. And Dr. Kropp, who's the guy who looks like Colonel Sanders crossed with the devil.
He totally does.
He wants the breastplate and bracelet because they have some sort of mystical powers. Is that right?
Yeah, there was something going on with that shit. I don't even know. There was a reason they wanted it. All I knew is that they wanted it.
The mummy's really good at knocking over furniture.
Yeah, he is.
And pushing people.
I just remember the mummy picking up that guy. Like, he's holding him up and he's carrying him so slowly. And the man and wife or whatever, the guy and girl, are just standing there doing nothing to help. As the mummy just carries this guy slowly over to the pit of rattlers and just throws him in.
They go to the cops and they tell them, a mummy showed up and killed all these people, and they threw that guy into a pit of rattlers. Wouldn't the cops be looking at them and being like, "You're coming with us"? And then I think, Dr. Kropp, who survived the fall into the pit of rattlers, he's going to hypnotize the professor's wife, or the scientist's wife, to...
Flora, do not try to fight it. Come here.
Why? Do you remember that scene? He's like in the car outside their house and he's like,
Flora, do not try to fight it. Come here.
And it goes on for like 3 minutes of her walking from the bedroom down to the car to find the mummy.
Yeah.
I think. Is that right? Yeah. So then he gets...
I don't know, probably.
Yeah, I think that's right. Oh yeah, so we're like almost an hour into the movie and there's still no sign of a robot anywhere.
No, not even mention of a robot yet.
So...
Sure, you're expecting some robot versus mummy action, but...
What are you doing here? Answer me! What are you doing here?
What I think, she was hypnotized and could be under post-hypnotic suggestion. So it seems to me that the bat controls her from a distance. It's logical.
Yeah, instead of like calling the police, he goes to investigate himself with Poindexter.
Yeah.
And they go to Dr. Kropp's new lair, right?
Yeah.
Or do they go looking for the mummy first? No, they go to his lair.
I'm pretty sure it's where they go to Dr. Kropp's lair now.
Yeah. Fuck is this movie? Wait, no. They go to the cemetery first. They find out which tomb they went into because the lock was broken, but they don't show us that. That'd be a great spot to put in like a little insert close-up where you'd be like, see, the lock's broken. But they don't bother to do that.
Yeah.
Look, the breastplate and the bracelet.
They didn't take it.
Then they go find Dr. Kropp, and they're captured by him for making... And he reveals to them in like a 10-minute monologue about his robot being the most incredible thing on the planet, and it will like enslave the world.
I decided to create a man. A breathing body. A real man. And I have made that dream come true. There you have the greatest creation of man's intelligence. A breathing body. A real man. Now you're a man! Man!
Where you can clearly see like the guy's face and like where his neck goes into the suit that he's wearing. but they explain that away by making it a human
A
robot,
human robot, yeah.
which doesn't make any fucking sense.
That scene where Dr. Crop is like holding them against their will and explaining his plan, it's got to be the most boring thing I've ever seen.
Do you know what could have happened to you right now? Had I not diminished the electric force, the current that makes him move, and that is contained in this apparatus? With the slightest twist of this dial, you two would have been converted into atomic dust instantaneously.
Well, okay, then they wake up the robot, and this is like what the movie's been building up to.
And it's like Dr. Crop's like big plan. He went criminal.
Yeah.
And this is like his work of art. His
And
robot.
It is the slowest, most clumsy looking robot of cinematic history, I think.
With some like pieces of vacuum cleaners that they like glued to it.
Yeah, it was. He had like a bucket on his head, and he couldn't even like walk in a straight line. It looked like the actor couldn't see where he was going.
Why don't they just get a bear?
That would have been great.
Like a grizzly bear versus
chained
the
up,
mummy.
and they've been starving it for days.
Come on!
So this is with probably about 5 minutes left in the movie.
Yeah.
And then I would say the next solid minute of the movie is the robot walking across the graveyard. Under 3 minutes to go in the movie. It's robot versus mummy time. At least this movie is a clear winner, though. Unlike
Yeah, good
AVP
call.
Requiem. Yeah, we'll give her respect for that. And then the mummy goes and kills Dr. Crop.
Yes.
You kind of see it. It just kind of happens in the corner.
Yeah.
So the worst criminal ever, his criminal run has come to an end. The mummy has defeated his robot and him. So deep.
Popoka, in memory of the great love that once existed between us, stop all this death and destruction. Take these objects that are yours to guard and go back to the grave of our ancestors, where we should never have interrupted your eternal sleep.
Is that what the mummy was after?
I guess so. And then he takes those two items and just goes.
Leaves. I'm not sure where he's going now. Probably another tomb, just down.
Just to chill.
Just to chill. If someone had a gun to your head and said, Ben, you have to watch one of these two movies again, which one would it be and why?
Aztec mummy versus the robot because it's shorter.
My exact answer.
Like, out of honesty.
Yeah, because at least that one has, you can laugh at it. Alien versus Predator was just boring and forgettable.
And like a waste of money. Like, you could tell that this movie was done on a shoestring budget.
Yeah, they clearly only had like 5 sets built, and that's why it wasn't anywhere else as in those sets. Probably shot it in like a week or something like that.
What do you think's the better versus movie?
I think in this case, the audience loses.